I praise that system all the time. I think it's like one of the most amazing things. What I love the most about it is that it's meaningful to the client. It's something that the client has, that you and the client have developed together, you know, with your intake and your initial assessment and evaluation. But the client is identifying those things that really are going to make significant change in their life. And so I love that component of it because it's meaningful. It's meaningful. It's not just us saying, oh, you're better, or, oh, you know, this feels better. It's meaningful. So what happens with that process is that we can look at, again, the data that the client has established. And we create a baseline by saying over the past year, we make a, you know, what was a good week on a 0 to 10 scale? What was a good week? What was a bad week? What is a usual week for you? And so we kind of talk through all that, and we help them come up with what that is for them. And we want it to be their assessment. I don't want to put my opinion. I want you to tell me what that feels like for you. So we create that baseline, and then with every session they come in, we ask over the past, you know, whether it's, 4 days, a week, whatever intervals we're doing sessions, you know, in the past week, let's rate those on the same scale. And so what you can see is truly where you're making an impact, how it helps with neurofeedback. And because on the other side of the tracker session, you put what you did in that neurofeedback session. So you really put your intervention. Where did you train? How did you train? Did you do synchrony? Did you do alpha theta? And so you can see exactly what results you got directly from your intervention from that session. And it allows you to make sure you're on the right track. It allows you to go, maybe I need to rethink my protocol. Maybe I need to rethink sort of what we're doing. I think the other part is it allows the client to see progress during the process. You don't get that in mental health care. You know what I mean? You're not able to see anything tangible. And so for the client, they're like, oh, and you can show it in a graph, you can show it on a chart. They can actually see that, hey, this is getting better. And it's their report. It's not me saying, look, you're getting better. They are reporting it. It's their assessment of it. And so in general, it's just a wonderful way to really look at a true measurement of your intervention.
Let them know that it's just a series of questions that we're going to be addressing before the start of each training session, so that we can, I explained to them, I want to be able to show you how things are changing. I want to be able to see it, but I think it's also important for you to be able to see how things are changing, if things are changing. I was a neurofeedback client, and if it hadn't been for my trainer using the RTS system, I wouldn't have really been able to know exactly how much change had happened for me. So for me to see it, and I could explain what things felt like, but again, week by week, watching those numbers fall and watching those percentages change, that kind of took me from a place of going, oh yeah, well, I think some things are changing, to, oh wow, things really are changing. I don't feel it day to day necessarily, but when I stand back and look at the bigger picture and see where I was a few months ago and where I am now, I can really see significant change. And so having been a client and being able to watch my own results tracking system, results changing for clients, I'm sure to tell them that. And I freely share with them, I've been a neurofeedback client. I've trained this way myself, and watching these numbers change for me was very, very encouraging. And so, I use it with every client, every session.
So it really helps me demonstrate to the client that neurofeedback is having positive effects. And so I say to them, I do an entire session where we just dive into RTS. And I say, all of these things that are listed under these areas of concern are things that neurofeedback can help with. And so tell me, what are the things that are true for you ever. And it also then kind of helps me get a history of their brain. And so I walk through step by step and their concerns and what are their stressors to really help me figure out where are my starting sites. And then I will ask them to pick the 8 areas that they want to focus on. And I ask that 2 or 3 of those 8 areas that we are focusing on are things that we will know right away, that we'll be easily able to measure if neurofeedback is being successful and if neurofeedback's working. So like, are we going to notice right away with your sleep because that's really horrible, or your mood swings? Typically, clients have a harder time judging if their long-term or short-term memory is getting better. So they might want to focus on that, but it's not one that's going to tell us kind of right out of the gate. But we'll still keep measuring that. So I typically will pick 8. I know I can pick less, but I typically will pick 8. And every session we do the scales and I ask them like in this last week. And so some clients I only see every other week, but I always ask them to kind of gauge it within the last week of how they've been noticing. And I specifically don't show them or tell them what they rated it the week before, because I don't want them to gauge it off of how was I last week versus this week. But then after 2 or 3 sessions, I'll show them the graph that shows up. And I think they really like seeing that. They're like, oh, I am feeling better with that. And I'll tell them like, hey, did you know that, this week everything has improved except for disassociation. That's up a little bit, but everything else dropped from the week before. And so I think sometimes with neurofeedback, because it's so powerful but subtle, people might not necessarily notice the positive changes. And so I really like the RTS as a very tangible way to say things are shifting and improving for you.